16th century, when missionaries first started arriving in Korea, they had a bit of a hard time initially. For instance, there was the Donghak Rebellion in the 1890s, and this was largely a rebellion against Western ideas and foreign influence in the country, in particular against missionaries. But by the early 20th century, all this had changed. For instance, in 1904, along the northeast coast, a few thousand people converted to Protestantism within a single year. In fact, they were converting so many people that a missionary named Swallen said that compared to China and Japan, the missionaries in Korea were so successful that it was sort of wrong to ask God for any more help. But in 1906, they received news that in a small province in India, 8,000 people were converted. So they set about trying to convert even more Koreans, and in Pyongyang in January 1907, they held daily training classes and prayer groups. Then one day in mid-January, large groups of Koreans started coming to the church. They all prayed together, beat their chest and confessed their sins, and some of their sins included their hatred of the Japanese occupiers. And thousands of people were converted in just a single day, but only 2 foreigners were there at the time. So this was all largely Korean driven, and the causes of it are up for speculation. For instance, it could have just been another American Presbyterian movement, the likes of which happened all over the world, or it may not have been a spiritual movement at all. It could have been quite political, and the church was just a place for the locals to unite and vent their grievances against the Japanese. But many of the converts, like many of the North Koreans at the time, were middle and lower classes. So some people in recent years have compared it to the Minjung movement of the 1970s, which helped establish democracy in South Korea, so it was sort of just a mass political movement. Also, many of the convert leaders converted from Taoism, not the traditional Confucianism, but I'm not too sure what that means exactly. But anyway, the movement was very successful, so successful that Christianity is still a major religion in South Korea and still survives in the north. But at the time, Pyongyang was the center of this religious movement, so much so that it was dubbed the Jerusalem of the East. It is believed that Kim Il-sung was raised a Protestant. After all, his grandfather was a minister and his father went to religious school. And some people speculate that Kim was heavily influenced by Christianity when establishing his cult of personality. For instance, his teachings are repeated in schools, the places he visited are held in high regard, and so too are images of him. There's a semi-miraculous birth, and he's often portrayed as a teacher and a loving father figure almost, and of course he's president after death.